Star Trek IV has been a saga all its own, and not just on screen. What was once a promising and eagerly awaited return for the iconic crew has instead become one of Hollywood's, well, most chaotic journeys through development hell. Casting changes, creative overhauls, high-profile exits, and multiple script rewrites have turned what should have been a smooth warp-speed cruise into a full-blown space storm. Yet somehow, Star Trek IV is still alive, and maybe even closer than we think. Let's take you through the wild, twisting tale of how the next chapter of the Kelvin timeline came to be, what's changed, and what might still be coming our way, with big names like Chris Hemsworth and Gal Gadot now part of the story. So let's look at the beginning. Let's go back to 2015, before Star Trek Beyond had even hit theatres. Paramount had already started laying the groundwork for a fourth film. Confidence in the rebooted Kelvin timeline was high, and the studio wasted no time securing its biggest stars. Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto were among the first to re-sign, locking in their returns as Captain Kirk and Spock with upgraded paychecks. Clearly, they were planning for the long haul. But what really got fans buzzing was a game-changing announcement from J.J. Abrams in mid-2016. Chris Hemsworth was coming back. Yep, Hemsworth, who played George Kirk, Jim Kirk's father, in the emotionally charged opening of the 2009 reboot. He would be reprising his role. Yay! That naturally led to one burning question. How? Well, the answer was a time-bending, sci-fi heavy storyline that would see the younger Kirk somehow encounter his long-dead father. Writers J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay were crafting what was described as a heartfelt, universe-spanning reunion involving a transporter trick, near-death rescues, and a layered emotional arc between the two Kirks. It had everything: spectacle, emotion, and legacy. But then came tragedy. In June 2016, actor Anton Yelchin, who played Pavel Chekhov, was killed in a heartbreaking accident. The entire Star Trek family was shaken. Abrams swiftly announced Chekhov would not be recast. The loss was just too great to do that. Creative chaos and star-studded surprises. From there, the momentum began to sputter. While most of the cast was still on board in theory, no final deals had been signed. Negotiations dragged and interest started to wane, but just when it looked like the franchise might quietly fade away, things took a sharp left turn into the unexpected. Then came the news about Quentin Tarantino. In late 2017, the legendary director threw a completely out-of-this-world pitch at Paramount. He wanted to make his own Star Trek movie, one based on the original series episode A Piece of the Action, the one where the crew beams down to a planet stuck in the 1920s gangster culture. It was vintage Tarantino, stylish, eccentric, pulpy, and full of attitude. And here's the wildest part. Paramount said yes. A writer's room was formed, Mark L. Smith, known for The Revenant, was tapped into scripted, and Tarantino didn't just want a fun space romp, he was aiming for an R-rated Star Trek that still had heart. According to those close to the project, it would have been like Thor Ragnarok meets Pulp Fiction, a wild mix of bold visuals, offbeat humour, and emotional depth. Pine and Quinto were reportedly in Tarantino's sights for the leads, but there was tension around sticking to the Kelvin timeline. Abrams encouraged Tarantino to ignore the continuity headaches and just make something great. For a moment, it looked like Star Trek might truly go where no one has gone before. But, in typical Hollywood fashion, the hype fizzled. By 2020, Tarantino confirmed he would likely step away from directing. His vision remained on paper, but the fire behind it cooled. Multiple pitches, but no launch. Still determined to get a fourth film made, Paramount pivoted again. In 2018, S.J. Clarkson became the first woman ever hired to direct a Star Trek film. Her version would have focused once more on the father-son dynamic between Kirk and George, imagined with a tone similar to Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. There was excitement, but also familiar problems. Hemsworth reportedly walked away due to script concerns. Negotiations over pay didn't help either. By 2019, the project was shelved again. Later that year, a new name entered the scene: Noah Hawley, the mind behind Fargo and Legion. His pitch? Well, a complete reboot of sorts. New crew, new storyline, new Trek. He assembled a compelling package with actors like Cate Blanchett and Rami Malek planning to shoot in Australia. But it all came crashing down when COVID-19 changed everything. Paramount's new studio head, Emma Watts, hit pause. One of the reasons was that Hawley's script allegedly centered around a deadly interstellar virus. Well, that was an unfortunate coincidence in the middle of a real-world pandemic, I suppose. A new captain at the helm. Well, after what felt like years of silence, the project resurfaced in 2021 with a surprising amount of momentum. Matt Shakman, the director behind Marvel's WandaVision, came on board with new writers Lindsay Beer and Geneva Robertson-Drowett. The script was reportedly fresh, exciting, and had the blessing of longtime Trek producers. So that's good news. Then in early 2022, Paramount made a bold public statement. The original Kelvin cast was officially returning. Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl Urban, John Cho, and Simon Pegg were all expected back. There was just one little tiny problem. They hadn't actually told the actors yet. So, despite that awkward misstep, Paramount was finally committing real resources to making the film happen. Pine, for instance, was said to be earning around $13 million, and Star Trek IV wasn't just a movie anymore. It was a cornerstone in the studio's effort to beef up its Paramount Plus platform and reignite interest in the franchise. Pine, ever thoughtful about the franchise's future, cautioned against blockbuster bloat. He argued that Trek didn't need a Marvel-sized spectacle. What it needed was a character-driven, storytelling emotional honesty, and the kind of thoughtful sci-fi that made it beloved in the first place. But, just as things were getting exciting, you guessed it, another curveball. In August 2022, Shakman left the project to direct Marvel's Fantastic Four reboot, and just like that, Star Trek IV was rudderless once again. Paramount yanked it from the release calendar and offered no clear direction. Jonathan Frakes even expressed interest in directing, but nothing official materialized. By the start of 2024, with Hollywood firmly recovering from a long writer's strike, Paramount regrouped. They didn't just want a single Star Trek film, they wanted an entire movie slate, and that meant a new plan for everything. In January, the studio announced a prequel film set centuries before the 2009 reboot, an origin story of Starfleet and the early days of the Federation. At the same time, writer Steve Yockey of the Flight Attendant fame was brought on to craft what's now being positioned as the final entry in the Kelvin timeline. And yes, the Hemsworth story might still happen. Gal Gadot's name has also been floated in recent casting rumours, potentially bringing a major presence into the franchise's next evolution. Meanwhile, to steer the broader vision of Trek on the big screen, Paramount brought in Simon Kinberg, known for guiding the X-Men franchise. What was his job? Well, to oversee not just Star Trek IV, but a connected film universe that could span everything from theatrical releases to Paramount Plus streaming events, like the upcoming Section 31 film. So what the casts are saying. And while the studio keeps shuffling plans and rebooting strategies, it's really the original cast that's kept the spirit of Star Trek IV alive. Over the years, they've opened up more about what this journey has meant to them and what they will hope that it still becomes. Over the years, they've opened up more about what this journey has meant to them and what they hope it could still become. Chris Pine, now 44, has taken on the role of elder statesman among the group. Speaking at a fan convention in San Antonio, he talked about wanting to bring Star Trek back to its emotional roots. Sure, big budget spectacle has its place, but for Pine, the heart of Trek has always been about people, purpose, and connection. He wants storytelling that puts characters first and that gives longtime fans something truly to hold on to. Zachary Quinto, who's embraced Spock for over a decade now, shared similar thoughts. At 47, he's made it clear that age shouldn't be a barrier to bold exploration. After all, the original cast flew into their 60s without blinking. To Quinto, time only adds depth, and he's eager to see stories that reflect that. Zoe Saldana wants the same. She has championed a more evolved Uhura, one with greater responsibility and emotional complexity. She's also hinted at revisiting Uhura's relationship with Spock, exploring how it has changed and matured over the years. Then there's Simon Pegg. For him, any return to the Enterprise would be bittersweet. The loss of Anton Yelchin still weighs heavily on the cast, and Pegg has spoken candidly about how close they all became and how deeply Anton's absence is felt. So, is Star Trek IV still happening? It's not fully locked in, but it's definitely not dead. It may have had more false starts than a broken warp core, but it's not dead. Far from it. With a cast this passionate and a galaxy of untold stories still waiting, hope for the Enterprise's next mission burns brighter than ever. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure that you watch the next one as well. In the meantime, good to see you, and I'll see you in the next one. Live long and prosper. See ya!